I created the Matrix. I've been waiting for you.
Why am I here?
You are the eventuality of an anomaly which, despite my sincerest efforts, I have been unable to eliminate from what is otherwise nothing precision. You just lay here.
You haven't answered the question.
The Matrix is older than you know, as you are undoubtedly gathering. The anomaly is systemic, creating fluctuations in even the most simplistic equation.
Choice. The problem is choice.
Right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Be here Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Private Eye Matrix Revealed with Monique Lassard. All right. Thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And yeah, we're going to get back to your host.
Good morning, Revolution Radio. Welcome to Cultivating Consciousness. Welcome to the 13th of May. I'm Kelsey Sweet. I'm having kind of an odd moment this morning. I think I've got all my technology lined up. And so I'm like hearing myself on top of things maybe today. So, hello. Good morning. I'm going to turn this down. I feel like my microphone is so sensitive. Do you hear that? That's like the little knob. Okay. My volume knob. Can you hear me okay? Meow. Hear everything okay. Perfect. I'm getting my studio organized. I'm so excited. I even smudged this morning. I smudged for all of us. So, I use sage. I have a dear friend and supporter of mine. His name's Richard Briggs, and I never had the pleasure of meeting him in person, but several years ago, sorry, I'm just having this like weird moment of hearing myself. I'm like, everything's so clear this morning. My channels, inside channels, outside channels. I don't want to get too far ahead. But yeah, my friend Richard, he's a part of the Lakota Nation and reached out to me through one of my Facebook groups. I think my very first Facebook group that I did several years ago. I was during a time when I was logging dialectic behavior therapy amidst doing one of those 365-day photo blog challenges. And he reached out to me and connected to me and sent me some sage and some bitterroot and a couple of medicine bags and some sweetgrass. And several years later, they had some dry seasons, and so he wasn't able to continuously send me things. But last year, I got this giant box on my doorstep. I was like, what the heck is this? And it's just full of amazing white sage and more sweetgrass and more medicines. And I'm so lucky. I'm so blessed. I'm like down to the bottom of my box. Danny said the other day, "You want more?" I'm so lucky. But we've used that this morning to cleanse our space. And thank you, gentlemen, for the round table right before this. You made some interesting points, so I'm kind of like processing all of that as well, and trying to keep myself very grounded this morning because I feel like I'm hearing a lot this morning. So I'm happy consciousness was brought up. I'm like, yay, I cultivate consciousness. This is what a good segue. Thank you. The breath part. Yes, I'm talking about being in alignment. And in my meditation before jumping into this space, I had the thought of like deep hunger. And I think it was in the chat room, it was mentioned too, for our psychic powers, right? Because we all have this capacity to tap into psychic powers and these ultimate other senses. And when we start listening to these things and we align ourselves energetically, we start picking up on stuff. We start to experience the world very differently. And when we're in present time and when we're in like this very authentic space, it can be raw and it can be vulnerable, but it doesn't have to be. Because you can be very grounded and very centered and just very blunt and straightforward with it. And so like this deep hunger, like that I'm feeling right now, I don't know if it's just because it's first thing in the morning and it's breakfast time, but I have the thought that, well, I guess to put it into context, I am not a very large person by any means. I'm quite petite and I'm quite thin, and I'm throughout, I would say my whole life, most of my life, I've had a really hard time putting on weight. And I love food. Like I eat so much. And when like I don't understand, like it just doesn't. But no, see, I do understand because it's this deep hunger. Because when we start to align the mind, body, spirit, and we start to process and we start to think, it takes a lot of energy, right? Yeah. Grab your cup of coffee, grab your cup of tea, smell that bacon, right? Taste it. I wish I had bacon this morning. As far as Revolution Radio time, if you're looking at our schedule, right, we are somewhere around 6 a.m. I got the 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. slot here on Wednesday mornings, but for me it's even earlier. I'm over on the West Coast. I'm communicating to you out of Reno, Nevada. Well, in a little suburb just outside of that, really. And let's see, this morning I feel quite excited. I think next week, next Wednesday is my birthday. I'm so happy that I get to do my show on my birthday, for my first year on radio, and getting to do these shows. The way things have been lining up has been very surreal. Very, very surreal. So I feel like, especially because I'm going to be 33 this year, so 33, like the 2 3s, and it's on the 20th, so like the 3 2s, the 3 20s, right? 3 5 20 20 20. Like all these number patterns are just lighting up, which I think is awesome and fantastic, because I think things are shifting, right? Now, this is mentioned. You think things are shifting too. That's why you're listening into Revolution Radio. let's talk about Revolution Radio before we get too far into this morning and we take our deep breaths in together. We've been making some headway here. The Patreon has been a neat platform. I got onto Patreon. I'm subscribed onto there as well. And I've also got my own Patreon, so you can find me, Kelsey Sweet, on there. But if you go to freedomslips.com and you scroll through our pages, you will find a section or a link where you can become a patron, which will take you to the Patreon account. You can support us in all kinds of ways. You can buy t-shirts through our website. You can send us money. You can send us snail mail. We don't care. But we are very, 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 very grateful for all the listeners who support this program and allow this to happen. Because what an amazing space for us to come together and to share information that you don't get to hear in other places. Who else is going to give me 2 hours to talk about whatever I want first thing in the morning? That's what I thought. Morning, everybody. It's springtime. Eagle Flower in the chat room has pointed out to us that yes, the birds have been chirping all night long. I don't know what's going on with these. You do. I'm learning the Schumann resonance. Today, thank you, chat room, right? It is off the hook. The energy is just intense right now, and I think it's consciousness. Consciousness is put in context in many different ways, many different, like, right now, but you feel it. You can, I don't have to explain it. Okay. I'm listening to the guides in my head are like, okay, let's get this show rolling. Stay on track and stay focused here. It's my challenge. It's my greatest challenge. Let's see. I want to do all the things at one time. Yes, you can go to the store on freedomslips.com. Yes, you can donate to us. You can check out our management list too. Check out our schedule, see what's coming up for the day. We've got a full lineup of people to give you some fascinating information. In the archives, I've learned the archives are almost released. We're almost there. I'm so happy. I've been starting to record my own shows and I'm trying to figure out editing and software stuff because I've been playing into some techie things. And so as far as getting updated in my own life and whatnot, I have a YouTube channel that's starting to collect more information, more stuff for me. I've got some of my books. They've got little paper previews that you can go through. If you go to kelseysweet.com, KELSEYSWEET, it's like that Mickey Mouse song, right? That's how you're gonna get my name stuck in your head. Please let me be the antithesis to Mickey Mouse. Let's see. Okay. Feeling silly this morning. Okay, let's breathe. We'll start there. Let's all get grounded in. Because yes, the breath is so important. And this was asked in the round table. I don't know if you're just jumping in now or if you've been listening in for a little while or if you've been up all night. I haven't been up all night. I sleep a little bit before this, so you catch me when I wake up. First thing, dark and early in the morning. But I heard when it comes to consciousness, right? The prompt there was to take a deep breath and ask yourself, are you really helping? Is what you're doing really helping out in the world? I ask myself this all the time, constantly. I feel like I'm always second and third guessing myself, am I sure? Yes, all the psychic stuff is fun and all the metaphysical stuff and the intuitive and the knowing and the whatever, but I have to be sure. I can't call myself this mystical being. I have to call myself empirical scientist. I have to be sure. I have to fit my belief systems in some sort of container that makes some sort of like material sense, right? I don't know. But how do you really know when it comes to consciousness and vibrations and the authenticity part? You know if you really, really look deep within and you ask yourself, are you helping? Am I really helping? If you begin to explore this, you may find out that you indeed may be helping. But helping whom? Helping what? What energies are you helping to move forward, right? And I think within the spectrum, we don't necessarily have to call it good or bad. It's judgment. It puts us in this space of either one or the other. Either breathe or don't breathe. So you can either live or you can just drop dead. Okay, we can't not breathe. Right, I mean, this is an autonomic response. This is, as it was put earlier, this is the universe and Mother Nature having a direct conversation and interaction with us, right? It's direct biofeedback. It's our biology. It's our makeup. It's our meat suit. Our bodies know how to breathe. They do it. Where consciousness comes into play with the breath is to breathe consciously. How are you breathing? Where are you breathing? What is the rate of your breath? You know, what is it that you're breathing in? This is social distancing. You don't want to stand too close to somebody. What's the joke, right? You know, if you're too close, you can smell somebody else's fart. Yes, COVID-19. You fart like everyone else. Shit stinks. Shit's hitting the fan, right? We all see it. It's coming. We feel it. Mother Nature feels it. So let's prepare ourselves. We're going to take 3 deep breaths. And with your first breath, you're going to ask yourself if you're really helping. With your second breath, you're going to ask yourself, are you breathing correctly? How are you breathing? Okay. And the third one, we'll get to it when we get to it. Don't worry about it. We're thinking too hard. It's too early in the morning to think too hard. Okay? So on a deep breath in, this is a collective breath, okay? This is around the world. This is Mother Nature breathing in at the same time. Despite our time to zone differences, right? This is breathing in with Mother Earth. This is when you watch the images of the seedlings in the Amazon, right? With the whatever, it's slow motion. You can see everything pulsing in the ground, right? Okay? We're going to take breaths with the earth together despite our time differences, and together through our breaths we're going to ascend upwards into the realm of collective consciousness. And for this brief, almost hour and a half that we have left, okay, we can step out of our current space and time, unless you need to pay attention to the road. Be mindful. Okay, let's do it. Ready? We're just going to breathe in. And very, very slowly breathe out. Are you really helping? How are you helping? Throw it up to the guides. How can I help more? Release it. Right, let it go. Another second breath, and you're going to breathe in nice and slow. In through our nose. Out very, very slowly. How are we breathing? What is your breath telling you about your body? Oh, this is my favorite practice. Thank you. Thank you for participating. Okay, and on our third breath, are you engaged with your community? Okay, Breathe in. And out. And what does your community look like? Your biological community, right? Your guts, your health, your family community, local community, state, nation, earth. Okay? Hello, good morning. That was fun. Take a big drink of coffee here. Let's see. So now that we are all grounded in, we're tapped in together, it feels nice, right? It feels a little bit better. I mentioned this, I think, last week too. It's one of my favorite practices to do with classes, big groups, especially with kids and in art groups. So when we're doing art and when we're creating, we want to create from a space of higher consciousness, right? Like if we're just creating something that already exists, that's already here, we're not necessarily doing anything that serves us like anything new, right? Like think of it like being at a table and the waiter comes up and brings you your like order again after you've already eaten, and you're like, but I've already eaten, why would you bring me a second plate? I ordered dessert. Okay. I got food on my mind this morning. Meat on my mind because it's not going to be there. The food shortages, going to be so unequally distributed. I don't think everybody is going to go hungry. There are people who are taking some preventative measures, and there's some people who know how to farm and who know how to hunt, but most people don't. And then even if you do, there's Mother Nature that comes into play here as well, and there's just natural shortages. I mean, and then when we are talking about these larger overarching forces of control, right, because they've been mentioned this morning as well, the way they're shifting and altering the systems, right, alters the way that we perceive the outcomes. So we can't really predict what's going to happen. It's like when we introduced pharmaceuticals into our psychology. Couldn't really predict what would happen long term. And scientists, right, made all these short-term alterations to our biology that are having very profound long-term effects. So when it comes into consciousness, when we can tap into that, when we can tap into this idea of 5G, and we can learn how to ride that wave and vibrate a little bit faster, vibrate higher, look for new knowledges, sources of information, adaptations. We're talking about psychological adaptation, conscious adaptation. Our biology will catch up depending on the rate of our consciousness. So if we allow ourselves to have accelerated thoughts in terms of ascending energetically, spiritually to these alternative spaces, alternate sources, primary source of information, I think that's more it. This is where it gets into like Godspeed, Christ consciousness, that sort of thing, but I don't want to get preachy with it. I want to keep it very grounded, easy for people to chew, because although that's part of it, there's more indoctrination that has been put into the words. There's a lot of conditioning, there's a lot of social conditioning that goes into those ideas and those concepts. So when it comes to reframing our relationship to Mother Nature, I think it's important to reword or even alter the words, alter the way we spell the words. Spelling is spelled, right? You create a physical representation, a symbol for something that's ethereal, that's a sound. So you create a physical representation of a vibration, and this is what art is, this is what creation is. Anytime that we have an idea and we put it down on paper, we're energetically formulating or like playing into consciousness and adjusting the vibrations, albeit very, very subtly sometimes. But with the current state of things, with how profound these changes are happening, it's not, I don't really know how else to put it. Because again, take it off the judgment spectrum of good and bad. Like with Trump. He's not good or bad. He's Gemini, he's both. Right? He's good and bad. Like people, we're both light and dark. We are one or the other. It's an existing potential. It can go this direction or it can go that direction. And so when you're gearing the energetic potentiality of your meat suit and learning how to direct and channel the energy that you're translating through your suit, right? What it is that you can create can be accelerated. Like Trump he's an accelerator. If you read through the 48, I say this all the time, but if you read through the 48 laws of power, somewhere towards the end of it, in the later, like, 20s, the 20-something, whatever, blah, 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 there's, like, a whole chunk where it just outlines Trump's leadership style as a catalyst for revolution. It's amazing. So, good, bad, or indifferent. This was mentioned beforehand, too. He's changing the system. The system is changing. We are changing the system. Globalization is changing the system. Right? Everything has been accelerated. We're growing very rapidly because as we wake up, as we're becoming aware, it's like coming out of a dream or waking up out of a dream. And if for the last couple thousand years collectively we've been in this dream state consciousness of pain, body, and deprivation, or sapient lifestyle, of authoritarianism, of hierarchical, reptilian, like, brained. I saw a meme, and this is an incomplete thought, but I saw a meme yesterday that cracked me up. I don't remember exactly where I saw it. It doesn't matter. But it's like the Mother Mary, or like the Mary and Joseph picture holding the baby Jesus, but the Joseph is an alien, and the Mother Mary is an ape, like Planet of the Apes ape. And then the baby Jesus is a human. I was like, this makes so much sense. Why wouldn't some alien species come down to planet Earth and find some sort of way to propagate a new species? And then, who knows? Who knows? Art is amazing. Art is fantastic. Memes especially. I mean, they can just transcend language and communicate so much. Imagery is amazing. And when it comes to consciousness, when it comes to imagery, when it comes to the things that we are creating, well, how do you know if you're really helping through your creations? Well, one, what is your initial vibration? Where are you vibrating at? Because if you're at a low vibration and your creations are emanating that, I mean, you're kind of dragging us all down, you know? But that's not to say that if the imagery, if the voice is angry or dark or has negative tone, that it can't be vibrating at a high frequency. My mind just goes to complaint. What are you complaining about? Oh, Kelsey, you're just complaining again. You know, or like, you can't ever just be happy. You can't ever just be content. There's always another problem to solve. Well, yeah. We're ascending together collectively in new ways, but how do we solve problems quickly? How do we, as it was put in the discussion an hour beforehand, how do we just rip the Band-Aid off? And I think coyotes are outside right now. Oh, my kitty's outside. He's been outside all night too. He's been like having this like itch, not a literal one, but feeling antsy. I've been feeling antsy, stir crazy, but we're all feeling it, right? I was talking to a mentor of mine, one of my teachers, the other day, and she's like, I'm frustrated. She's like, well, yeah, we're probably feeling it because the whole world's frustrated. Okay. So how are we helping? This is where it starts with, like, help yourself. And what does that mean? And what does the meaning of it look like? Learning how to take care of yourself. Learning how to be self-sufficient, self-sustaining, self-confident, self-aware, self-conscious, self-love. I mean, yes, love. Love is the ultimate frequency. Love is the ultimate power. Love thyself. Love thy neighbor. Love, 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 love. This word is overused. We need to go deeper. Because what is love? What does love look like? If we go down to the basics, if it's either love or fear, it's not necessarily right or wrong. If it's this or that, if it's love or fear, it's the basis of emotion. Every emotion stems from either love or fear. So if you're helping from a state of love, right? If you're not helping, you're in a state of fear. If you're in a state of fear, you're probably not helping. But if you're in a state of love, even if you're afraid, that you maintain love at the forefront, right? Maybe you're helping. Helping what? Evolve the human species. What else? You know, we're at war. We're at war with a quote-unquote virus. War was declared on a virus. Whatever that means, whatever that looks like, right? And so this is a very subtle and subliminal attack of our way of life, of consciousness. This is coming at us and telling us it's either wake up or don't. My favorite quote, homo luminous or bust, right? Because how do you beat this? You beat it with consciousness. It's a game, it's a mind game, it's a power play, it's a power trip. It's being able to fight for the good guys. And I think when it comes to things dying out, or the mass population, like the people who won't make it, people who won't adapt, I don't think it's going to be the people that are fighting. I think it's this neutrality. It's the being content. It's the sedentary lifestyle. The not knowing. They're stripping away education. People who don't necessarily know how to discern the information that's given to them. And I just think all the time, especially recently, like when it comes to people who have money, or like in being in an environment where people around me have money, how do people get this much money? Like, it's always seemed like so far-fetched, so far out of reach, that the idea of money is just far-fetched to me. I just have a really hard time grasping why the material stuff is so important. Perhaps it's because I've had to start over in my life so many times, because I've tried to accomplish so much, and I've had to lose so much, and I've had to take a lot of risk for education. I've had to make a lot of self-sacrifice for education, but not to stay within the confines of education, but to go out on my own limb with that, and to break the molds of that container as well. But how many people that have all this money are just stupid? Like, it doesn't take genius to make a lot of money. It takes a person who's good at being a part of the system, the current system that is now breaking down, right? The pre-existing system, the boomer generation of, I think, like my parents' generation, I think throughout their lifetime, their parents went through war and struggle. The people who came before them went through more, like my great-grandparents, more, I think, big changes when it came to like global shifts and global consciousness. But for the pre-millennial generation, the like radical shifts throughout your formative years really haven't been there. It's just been pretty constant. A nice constant. I enjoyed growing up in the 90s. But what I'm finding is that through these like formative chunks throughout my life, all these cycles, at the beginning of it, I'm told, well, this is how it's going to be and how it is. And at the end of it, well, that's not how it is at all. I know we told you that's how it was, but that's just not. Everything we told you was a lie. Everything that we told you were going to strive for and achieve it, I mean, that's not, that system isn't going to be there by the time you reach the end. You're going to have to start over, like a matrix cycle, right? So I've been like stuck in this loop, stuck in this matrix loop, and trying to get off the cycle. But what I'm finding, it's an ascension ladder, right? And with each beginning at each cycle, right, it's like a video game. There's new bosses to take on, there's new whatever, there's new powers, but my toolkit's bigger. My experiences have grown. The strengths are there. So learning how to trust the transformative, the developmental parts of those, the stages, learning to understand what has worked and has not worked through these shift and changing cycles has been, I think, kind of like the foundation of my life and why I do a lot of the work that I do. And teaching people how to step through these cycles, how to ascend to the next step. It's sharing and teaching people how to evolve. Oh, I'm starting to understand this in different ways too. It's funny. I don't know if you just heard the beep. It's I got a message this early in the morning, and that really happens. But from this teacher who I was just thinking about, who's had this conversation with me a couple of days ago that I'm now spewing out. Now, you know, we're like psychic metaphysical teachers, and now I'm getting a message from her direct in time. So we must be like on a wavelength. I'm gonna check in just to see what it is. But I've been helping out and assisting with spoon bending parties, online spoon bending parties. And if you want to get involved, there's one on the 24th. So you can contact me through kelseysweet.com, or you can find me Facebook Messenger. So probably the easiest way to get a hold of me, if you can find me through there. But if you want to get involved or participate in any of these, where there's multiple ongoing okay, it's a video to watch, so I'll have to get to that this morning. I'll have to have JQ on. She had a radio show. This is my teacher. She had a radio show for a number of years as well, back in the day, and has done a number of things, and worked with and carries on the work of Jack Hoke, who has done a lot of psychokinesis research. So I'm so excited to get involved and just to like learn how this information has grown and has like disseminated over the years. Because again, what I think is neat about the process of PK or of psychokinesis is learning how to channel the energy through the meat suit, understanding where that source comes from, and learning how to direct that energy out through the hands. And as an artist, I work with my hands primarily. I work with my whole body, but my hands are my most sensitive tool. I've been told that from a couple of intuitive readers in different levels and in different ways. So I try to be very mindful with how I'm using my hands and directing my hands, and how my hands are engaging with the artwork, and finger painting, chalk pastels, like using chalk pastels with the direct connection with my hand. It's my favorite. It's just a way of directly connecting to color and embodying these different frequencies and understandings, right? And talking about the cultivation of consciousness here, so it's ongoing. I'm so grateful you're here with me in this space and learning how to cultivate your own consciousness along with me, learning what all that means. And if you're just tuning in, you're like, what? Who the heck are you, lady? I don't know. Know thyself. Oh, that popped up. That's another one that's been popping up through my meditations. Oh, sorry. I'm distracted at the moment trying to grab something. But yeah, know thyself. Why do you do the art? Why do you make stuff? This was posed to me. Get back to the, like, why do you do it? And focus on the art and stay to the art, because I've been told that this is what my life's purpose is through my life's purpose reading, art. Okay. I'm gonna grow up and be an artist, nah. What is art these days? When you follow people who like Duchamp, to a freaking toilet and turn it on its side. So, aha, now we have art. And you get into these abstract artists like Polak, who's like, I'm gonna splatter this all over the place. I love abstract art. And I feel like I get a lot of I get a lot of beef about it from people. Or you can see when, like, people aren't really into art. No, I can't really say that. There are people who appreciate photorealism, and there are people who appreciate abstract, and there are people who appreciate it all, or people who appreciate music, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I find that in being an abstract artist, especially in life drawing, not only do I model for life drawing classes and have I done it for the last, like, almost 15 years now, I draw the human figure often. But I like to abstract the figure. I like focusing on the colors within the figure and adding in other colors and just putting in my own feeling about the piece. You know, releasing, alchemizing, taking whatever it is that I have within me and getting it out. Right, but getting it out in a very conscious way, in a beautiful way, in an aesthetically pleasing way, in a way that challenges my relationship to the human form and to the, you know, not only how I feel about myself, but how I represent it and what that means and what colors, and challenging my own perceptions of what I'm capable of producing. There's people who are like, oh, that doesn't look like this thing at all. Everyone's a critic. If you want to see any of my work, if you want to see any of my stuff, it's up on my website. I've been working on it quite a bit lately, and I've been reorganizing some things and shifting some stuff around. So right now you can access all my portfolios and my art books for nothing. Everything's there. At some point or another, I might take some of my my portfolio pieces, primarily for my modeling accounts, and put them into different platforms. And being a life drawing model and being a model and being an artist of various formats, I do nude modeling. So I'm also an advocate for sexual assault awareness and got into nude modeling because of empowerment and because of a lot of the traumas and the things that I've gone through in my life. And more than anything, I think it's funny, ironic, not like funny haha, but like funny, ironic that in those settings and in those situations, I'm safe. I'm very just like exposed and whatever, but like I'm safe. It's a respectable setting. It's not. I've been in situations where like the ironic part of it is where be walking down the street with people, we're going to like a friend's house, no makeup on, scrubby looking, whatever, jeans, old Vans and a sweatshirt, like, and something bad can happen to you. But you can be butt naked in front of a room full of strangers and nobody will touch you. People are weird. People are just, when it comes to their preconceived concepts about humanity, creation, art, nudity, not naked, but nudity, the humanity, who we are, the meat suit, like, people get funny. We start playing into the psyche, people step out of present time, people step out of authenticity. There's so much shame around the body and self-expression and authenticity. There's so much pressure within the system to conform and to look and be and do a certain way, to be quote unquote normal. My mom and I went to art school a number of years ago, a bit of a fallout. She said to me, why can't you just be normal? What's normal? Right? When you don't respond and react in predictable ways, in ways that you've been conditioned by the system, people conditioned by that system don't know how to respond and react to you. There's the safety net with art and being an artist, right? Where you can step outside the self and call it something else, or call it that art. Not that art is a scapegoat, but it's an extension of self. It could be, but I think that would be a misuse or an irresponsible use of art and creation and the power to create. That's how you know if you're really helping. Like, how do you know if you're helping when you make an art piece? What is the intention? What is the energy and the vibration and the frequency that you're putting into it? Because when somebody else comes into contact with it and they're exposed to it, and they see it or they hear it, taste it, smell it, whatever your art form is, when they're exposed and they have an interaction, there's a conditioning response that happens. The art piece becomes the antecedent, right? The witness engages in the behavior, and then there's a consequence. But you can't always predict it. You can't always predict how people are going to respond to certain things. People are conditioned to respond to the same things in different ways as well. So again, there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of misunderstanding. There's a lot of play on words. And with what, like 95% of our behaviors and interactions and selves being unconscious, if we can only be conscious of 5% of what's going on within ourselves and the world at any one given point in time, in the here and now, right? Then to stay in the here and now at any one given moment, and to constantly keep your channels open and be open to new information coming in, it can be a lot to process. Especially if you're trying to hold on to things and if you're trying to make sense out of this and doing integral work, right? And taking ideas from sociology and cross-pollinating them with psychology and cross-pollinating them with metaphysics and cross-pollinating them with art and cross-pollinating them with nutrition and cross-pollinating them with religion and like when you can pull little pieces out of all of these different puzzles and find similarities behind the differences and integrate, you can come up with something new. You can find new formulations. You can become more inventive, right? It brings diversity to the pot. Some people don't like that. People like predictability, stability. When things are changing radically, when we don't necessarily know where one thing's going to come from to the next. Like if we look at the world, like I don't want to say like the primary populace, but it has been very much so about establishing roots or like staying in one spot and becoming very attached. Not all cultures are like this and have been like this. There are cultures that are very nomadic. There are indigenous cultures that have learned to work with the land, right, who aren't attached to things being consistent. They're more attached to Mother Nature and learning how to work with and adapt with Mother Nature. So trying to control Mother Nature or force Mother Nature, or it's a matter of perspective. The weather yesterday I thought was beautiful. It was cool. kind of in the mid-60s. The sun came out a little bit, but it was cloudy most of the day. It sprinkled a little bit. It was a little bit breezy. And I heard someone say, oh, the weather's so yucky, it's cold. Gross. And there's just like complaints about the weather because it wasn't a perfect sunny day. I didn't want it to be a perfect sunny day. I wanted it to rain. I live in the desert. Most days are hot. I'm in the high desert, so that's not a full truth. In the winter, it gets very cold. When it's cold, it's cold. When it's hot, it's hot. Right? So these in-betweens, where there's diversity in the weather, where there's character about it, to be mindful and appreciative, it was a neat experience. I don't know, to each their own. That's dismissive, though. I want to say to each their own, but for each, it's not your own, it's our all. To each is our all. Because anything you do to you has an impact on us. Right? Even at a very, very subtle level. We have about a minute or so until we go on break. I've got you guys for another hour. Good morning. Welcome to Wednesday. Welcome to May. This is an opportunity where we can kind of step down off of our collective conscious little bubble here. Take a break, fill up your coffee, have another round of bacon, bake some muffins. Empty your bladder. Say hello, right? Say hello to you. Check in with yourself. You've been listening to me ramble, but listen to yourself for a second. What do you need? What does your body need? Mind, body, spirit need at this one point in time, in this moment, to be happy, to be content. Go get it. I am too. Hang on. I'll be back.
Listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Hello, Karl Marx here. Look at my wonderful hair. Notice how I sweep it back.
Carl?
I call it the 360 sweep. Beard, sideburns, and the magnificent coif.
Carl!
What? What is this?
You're on the radio. They can't see you.
Oh, yeah, I get confused. Want to learn more about the Marxist agenda and other important stuff? Listen to The Ultimate Remedy with L.B. Bork, Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern, right here on Revolution Radio.
This is Barbara DeLong, host of Nightlight Radio, inviting you to join me on a cosmic journey, exploring a metaphysical montage of spiritual material, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between, including spiritual readings for those who seek enlightenment. Let Nightlight provide you with equal measure of light, love and laughter, insight, wisdom, and inspiration. Monday nights, 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern, right here on Studio B, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
All right, thanks for listening along. We took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
Welcome back, Revolution Radio. There, I got a little echo. What if I put this one? I do have an echo. Hang on, what about now? I think now we might be okay. There we are. Well, welcome back, Revolution Radio, to Cultivating Consciousness. I'm your hostess, Kelsey Sweet. And this morning, for our second half of the hour, I have with me my son, Axiom James. Somebody decided to wake up. Somebody decided to wake up this morning and do radio with me, so he's in the background. So we'll do our best to keep distractions to a minimum. Good morning, everybody. Let's check in. How are ya? It's the 13th of May, our second half of the hour. This morning, I've been talking mostly about knowing whether or not you're helping, knowing the self, getting checked in, holding space. Let's talk about some of the other things that I've been doing recently. I got my first class, my first online course up, and I am so excited. I've had a couple people enroll in it already. It's called How to Be a Human, Huemyn, How to Be a Human. But it talks a lot, or it goes through a lot about what I'm talking about now. Because I feel like as I'm learning to know myself and my role in the world and what it is that I have to offer, I'm learning the skills that I have and the knowledge that I want to disseminate, that I want to provide people, are these tools to get through big shifts, to go through big changes, all the tools of dealing with transformation and what that means and how to transform yourself consciously and what that looks like. So understanding the potentials of what it really means to be a human being. Who are you? Who are people? What is it that you're capable of doing? Because if you can challenge your perceptions and understanding of self, about who you are, how your body works, how your mind works, how your spirit works, and how all of these channels play in together so that you become a more conscious, creative being. The co-creative forces there are phenomenal. If we can all learn how to tap into source consciousness and come up with new ideas for how things can be, as this system crumbles apart, as everything begins to dissolve, the crystals are going to reform. Those little particles, it's like sugar, right? Like if you're making a sugar crystal, you can put sugar into water with a stick, right? And then eventually a crystal will form. And again, if you dissolve that crystal, if you dissolve the sugar in the crystal in water, and again you allow it to reform, it's going to reform differently. And crystals have a lot of power. I mean, crystals in and of themselves, I mean, whether it's a sugar crystal or if it's a quartz crystal, like, of course the makeup, the material of it is going to have an impact on how energy is transmuted through it. Like energy put through a human body is going to, like light, right? Like light through a human body is going to look different than light through, say, a clear quartz crystal. So on and so forth. Thank you. Okay. Thanks, buddy. Okay, just hold still. Okay. Thank you. I love you. I know it's bright out. That's why I put that there. Wait. Bright lights, huh? So, in this course that I've put together on how to be a human, I'll put a link to it on the chat page. There, again, are a lot of tools. It's an introductory into my work, into my research, into working with me as a coaching client, is working with me. Everybody, what are you trying to do? Is it, you want me to turn the light off? Okay, hang on. Okay. Okay. There. Is that better? Okay. Well, you can try to sleep in here, but here's the rules. I got 1 more hour of radio, okay? Thank you. You've done a really good job these last couple of months. You can hang out, that's fine. And then we'll go back to your room, but you have to stay in your space, okay? And put a little bubble around you. We're gonna put a bubble around the people too. So anything you say, the whole world is gonna hear right now. I don't know. It's okay. You just listen and hang out. Thanks. I love you. Okay, toddlers are amazing. It inspires me so much, and it's taught me so much. It motivates me to find new ways of teaching and find new ways of connecting with people. And I wonder, especially, a lot of this is at the forefront of my mind, because with the future generations, with like the kids who are growing up amidst all this COVID stuff, like especially with education, like how are we going to move forward, and how are we going to approach things in an innovative way? I mean, it's one thing to say, know yourself and tap into your energetic body and then picture yourself as a crystal and channel in the light and direct that energy and grow something beautiful out of love. Right? Like, it's one thing to take these very abstract concepts and talk about them in a very fluffy way, and to be very... With art, we can be abstract, right? But when it comes to the realm of science, when it comes to the realm of education, there's a history, and there's something very important about being point and factual. Can I draw photorealistically? Yes. I've done it. I've replicated photographs. I hate it. I don't like doing it. I like precision in numbers. I like precision in data. I like precision in developing human skill. Right? To have precise intention, to manifest visions clearly, I think is so much more important. And so there's this co-creative potential that we have if we can figure out, how to be one, how to work together, how to do all of that. But right now, there's not precision in language. We don't mean what we say. People are talking from past conditioning. They're talking from future fears. They're in spaces of worry and anxiety. There are people who are very attached to the material system, who are struggling and fighting to maintain their material resources. What do you think? You can say something too. No, you have to say real words.
Fine.
Well, you don't. What kind of real words? Well, ask me a question. What do you know about being a human?
I don't know.
You don't know? Does it stink? Does being a human stink? Kinda. We have all these funny feelings. I know. What do you need for the world to be a better place? How do you know if you're helping?
Yeah.
You're funny.
This smells dirty.
It's a microphone. It's not supposed to smell like anything.
No, like apples.
An apple a day keeps the doctor away. That's what they
Do
say.
you like apples?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Do you like microphones?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
You like microphones, apples?
Do I like microphone apples? Apple microphones? Well, hang on a second, because you got to be mindful that we're not product marketing. Talk about evil corporations.
Tell me about colors.
Talk about good marketing. Talking about
I
good
tell
colors.
you about colors.
You want to talk to me about colors?
Blue and yellow.
And yellow, yes. Those are green, blue, and yellow. Those are some cool colors. Yellow's a warm color. What other colors do you know? That's the microphone volume.
Nothing.
What do you know about color? Whatever. Smell of colors. Okay. Seriously now. Let's bring this back in. Let's bring this back. We've got like 45 minutes. Can you sing us a song? This is radio. You can sing a song on the radio.
D-E-F-D.
Keep going.
A-I-D-A-N-O-P-R-S-U-B double X, Y, and Z. Now I know my ABCs. Next time I will see with me.
It was beautiful. Yay.
Alright.
Good job. Awesome. That was neat.
We bounce round and round, round and round, round and round. Real in the butts. Say round and round and round, round and round.
My ship's been taken over by a pirate.
I know.
Toddler.
Well, I had to all place. Well, I had to spend.
What are
Well,
you gonna do? Let's sing me a song. What about Twinkle Twinkle Little Stars?
well, I
For the people who are trying to go to sleep out there.
know.
No? What about a wake up song? Do you know a song for the morning?
Mm-mm.
Are you over it?
Well, I had to something. Well, I had. Well, don't. Well, I had to something.
Well, we can have a conversation on the radio if you would like. Can you say
Maybe do something
can you
like
say
what the pizza?
cultivating consciousness? Cultivating consciousness.
That.
That's not even close. Ooh, yeah, there you go. On Revolution Radio.
Rainbow.
On freedomslips.com. Freedomslips.com, yep. And who's the hostess of this show? What's my name?
House.
Yeah, Kelsey Sweet. What's my website?
Do.
KelseySweet.com.
HouseSweet.com.
Yeah, there you go. High five.
What's my name?
What is your name?
Please help me in my
Oh, yes, and this is my co-host, Axiom. Axiom
What's
James.
my favorite name?
What is your first name? Your
What
first
I
name?
feel?
Your feel? What do you feel?
A
You feel...
banana.
You feel like a banana.
I live in Nevada.
Oh, you live in Nevada. You're right. Yes, you live in Nevada. This is Axiom James from Nevada. He's a pirate of Nevada on my ship. Help! Help! Cultivating consciousness has been taken over by the toddler.
Yes! I am here to save you!
Save me! Save me!
Save us!
You're the future generation. You have to save us.
I am saving you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'll
save you if you help us save the world. Does that make sense? I love you. Don't
Oh,
push the
so.
buttons. Okay. Well, so tell people. How do you know if you're helping?
Sit down there with you.
What? No, if you come sit down here, I'm taking my captain chair back.
What the?
Yeah, you give up that seat, I'm going up there.
What?
Look, you even got a good job on the ABCs. There you go. You're getting some feedback. Do you want to sit on my lap?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let's sit up here on the chair.
Hit the radio.
Well, okay, so here's the deal. This is the radio. This is Revolution Radio. FreedomSlips.com. You have to tell people if they would like to support us, right? They can go to freedomslips.com because we are listener supported, listener funded. This show is called Cultivating Consciousness. My name is Kelsey Sweet. Okay, yes, we've gone over the website enough in the last few minutes. Okay, and the tiny one, he's taking the lower quarters. Very good. We're taking back the captain's chair here. So, as the 4:20 hour approaches on Pacific Standard Time, you all are going to...
I did a put
take that one for me. Okay, so good morning, Karen. I love children's perspectives too. I think children have great perspectives, and when they're this small, it's interesting because he can't comprehend or even fathom what's going on. This is his normal. This is the world that he grows up in. Yes, son. This book? Oh, that's your sketchbook. It's at the bottom of the pile. I'm in the middle of something else, and it's dark. You told me how are you gonna look at it? You turn the light off.
Yeah.
How about after radio? Then we can do sketchbooks. Look, we have 40 minutes left.
40?
That's it.
Uh-oh.
Oh, I know, right? We're running out of time.
Minutes. Hi. Right, we got 40 minutes.
Yes. There's chaos in my room. There's also chaos in Mexico.
What?
Thank you, Mace, for keeping us on track. I posted an article about Mexico the other day about the increase of women who have been murdered and like the increase of violence against women throughout this quarantine and this COVID thing is just absolutely, some of it is so subtle even again, because even in the context of just pointing it out or like in posting the article, somebody who responded back to me was like, so what? That's like, it's like such a minimal fraction of anything important. Like, who cares? Or like I even heard it in like the beginning of my advocacy work. Like, rape happens all the time. Who cares? Like, are you kidding me? Like, this is violence against women. Like, this is creation. Like, this is like, in its most metaphorical sense, it's violence against the mother, against Mother Nature, against nurturing, against femininity, against our female side. And when it comes to these polarities that create the spectrum, the male, the female, when it comes to sexuality, I think within art, I focus so much on sexuality because sexuality is creation. Like, when we have sex, it's to procreate. Anytime that we're creating, right, or we have these sensations, like we can have these orgasmic experiences without even it being about that. Our imaginations can connect us to so many different things, right? But sex is such a primary reinforcer that it's just been like love. It's just been bastardized in so many different ways. Sitting next to one. I love him very much. Right? But I like this. I think where men get the most defensive when it comes to like the war against women and the war against female is that they've been taught to like anything feminine within them is bad, and like men can't feel and men can't have emotions, or that has all this stigma about what that means. What is the role of a father, or even as in the world is shifting even before like the COVID stuff when it comes to like women going into the workforce and men being in positions to stay at home more, like the stay-at-home dad. Like, these concepts are fascinating, and I again, and not wanting to confine myself to any mold, find myself trying to like ride this wave or find the bridge, the connection to the future generation, like what his needs will be, what their needs will be. How are we going to educate?
My name is
Because he's supposed to be going into school, like, within another year. His birthday's in a weird place, so it's, like, late start, kind of. But, like, now, there's not really going to be school to put him in. And for the last couple of years, we've been doing the, like, work from home. We've been doing this quarantine lifestyle. I've been living this lifestyle for the last couple of years. So nothing really in my life has changed other than the business model that I've been working on, and all this energy and all this, like, time that I've been put into preparing myself for this. And here it is. Okay. I'm like, okay, here we go. Like, now we get to move forward. You know, the shit's hit the fan. Now I get to come in and clean up. Now I get to come in and do my job. That's all I do. That's all I've been doing for the last couple of years. I've been on poop duty. All day long. I just wipe butt. Clean up other people's messes. Right? Teach, heal, counsel, nurture, create. And I think motherhood is a neat role for that. Because until we hit motherhood, we're in the role of the child. Until the child becomes the parent, right? You don't really know. And people can parent in different ways. You don't have to have literal offspring to parent, necessarily. Although when you go through the biology of having a child, like, the biology feels different, right? When you become the mother, when you step into that power, when you can attune yourself to your offspring and to the frequency of what it is that you've created. I can only speak from the perspective of a mother. I'm not a father. But I imagine that some fathers would also have this strong connection. It's a genetic connection. I mean, if our genes are an antenna or a frequency, right, or like part of that channel, well then, I mean, he's carrying genes from two different lineages, so am I, so are you. So the energies that you feel come from your mother's lineage, come from your father's lineages. You carry on and take in and inherit those histories, those traumas, whatever it is that they're carrying in their genes that they haven't processed. I mean, that's moved into the offspring. Same thing with artwork. I mean, if you create as if your art is an extension, a genetic extension of yourself. If it's your baby, if it's a thing that you've made that carries on a life of its own, what about what is it within you that, because I mean, it goes even beyond just the intention. I mean, intention plays into the psychology part of the consciousness, but on the physical side of it, be it disease, be it alcohol, like fetal alcohol syndrome, right? Like, it's a very short-term thing that can cross a barrier and have a profound impact from a biological standpoint. Spiritual stuff, I think, comes into play of, like, darkness versus light, perhaps. Good versus evil. Pain body. Maybe more of, like, the karmic stuff. What are you doing over there, kid? The question is he gonna go back to sleep after this? If not, we're napping this afternoon. It's early. We might be putting some people to sleep, even though the goal here is to wake people up. Okay. Alright, I'm slightly distracted. Let's get back on point. Hello. We've got about a half hour to go. That's it. What is he gonna do? You're just sitting here playing in the dark. Okay, children are fascinating. But it's the integrating. Helping, right? How do you know if you're helping your kid or not helping your kid? What's important? What's the priority? Something my mom had said to me when I was young that has stuck with me throughout the years. She told me, like, she just wants me to be happy. I just want her to be happy. I think there's some truth in that. My mother's a jealous person. She carries this energy, so I feel like when people around her are happy, she realizes that she's not happy. So, being empathic and being sensitive, it's hard to be happy like that in an environment like that. So I've always worked very hard on what it means to be happy, what it means to live a full life, to live a meaningful life, to live a life in which and to live a life where you can help and help people grow. There's always the question of how do you know? How do you really know if you're helping or not? Let's see. What are you trying to do? If you're gonna play on this, you have to put on headphones, okay? Because the microphone is gonna pick up any sound you make. Okay, I love this microphone. This is cool. Technology is neat. And children are neat. And right before I had my son, I graduated with my master's. I graduated with my master's degree in transformative leadership. And through that, I explored art. I went to like art school very briefly, and I'm an artist, and so when I tell people I went to school, there's a lot of assumptions that I have an MFA or something, but I don't. I studied media arts, animation, and graphic design very briefly, but my bachelor's is in psychology. I minored in painting, but my master's is in transformative leadership, and it's a very bizarre degree. It's integral, but through this space, it's allowed me to bring all of these different elements together, and this is where I discovered consciousness. And right after I graduated, I ended up becoming a mother. And so I went through one transformative experience, one rite of passage in becoming a graduate, not just a graduate student, but in becoming a master, which I still have like a really hard time wrapping my head around conceptually, like stepping into that power and owning that. It just seems very strange to me, especially when I start talking about some of the things that I do. People are like, huh? What? Oh, yes, it's this human thing. Right? It'll make sense more in the future.
That's a piece of.
Okay.
What? Quiet.
Well, you want to be more quiet?
And my handfuls.
Do you want it louder?
No. How it see this how it was bouncing on him.
Yes. Is it quiet enough?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There we go. Quiet.
Oh, no.
We have sound effects. Oh, yes, and bringing me back to this. Yes, Karen, I agree. I don't think it's possible to be happy 24/7 either. And I think it's a false expectation to walk around in this place of that. And yeah, the whole happily ever after thing, I think about that a lot too, because my generation was raised on fairy tales. I'm an animation buff. And I love like the Disney and Pixar, the kid movies for young women nowadays. Like it's all about girl heroes. Like Moana. the whole, like, her going out onto the ocean and, like, just, like, stepping into her power, setting sail and, like, going into uncharted territories because she knows her truth and she knows her calling, right? It's not about finding a prince. It's not about that, right? And then the same thing with Elsa and Frozen, right? You have this very strong female power. It doesn't need a man, right? Who goes out on her own, who conquers her fear of her own power and learns how to channel that power and to show up in that, right? That's not the generation that I grew up in.
Hello.
I love you. I grew up in the generation of princesses.
What's up? I don't want her date this day.
Okay.
That we get.
Okay, so we can do snacks in about 20 minutes, okay? And just chill. Attention span of butterflies. Makes it hard to get anything done. I'm surprised to get anything done at all. No, it's great because as he becomes more autonomous, that's what they teach: autonomy, self-empowerment, self-actualizing, self-healing, right? Self-awareness, self-consciousness. How to step out of this, like, self-pity, self-aggrandizing ego. Step out of self-love and into self-compassion. No, see, that's where that love word gets kind of tricky. You want to be like, oh, you love yourself too much. But yeah, no, like, I grew up in this. Well, I was talking about that, I think, earlier in the show, too, of this theme of cycles throughout my life and, like, the time that I've been born in, where at the beginning of each, like, growth cycle, or, like, at each school period, you know, at the beginning of elementary school, I was told, this is what you need to learn because when you get there, this is going to happen. Okay, and I learned it. And then I got there, and they're like, I know that's how you were told that things were going to be, but we're going to make things different. You're going to be a part of this new system. We're going to be changing and experimenting things, and we're going to do it like this. So this is what you're going to learn. This is what you can expect to grow from it. And this is what you can expect to happen, because when you go into the next level, this is what you're going to be preparing yourself for, or preparing yourself to learn. And then I get to that next level, and they're like, okay, so I know you learned all of that stuff, but none of that's relevant anymore. And now we're going to teach you this because this is what you're going to need to know at the next level. And then I learn it and I ace it, you know. I was a very good student. And then I'd get to the next level and they're like, well, everything, you know, forget it. So again, like, when it comes to love, oh my God, my love life. I meditate on this more than anything. My love life is a disaster. Hopefully my love life is a miracle waiting for happen. Or like, wait, I don't know. Or I don't want to get too much into it. I know who the love of my life is. It's right there, right in front of me, and I just can't freaking touch it. I don't want to count that as the F word. Okay, now I'm distracted. I'm thinking about love. I'm thinking about romance, right? Because I was brought up in this era of happily ever after. You find this and you do this and you'll be happy and you just whatever, and, you know, somebody will come along and save you. And that's never been true in my life. Well, maybe like once. I'd say like, well, I can't say that. I've had some like positive relationships and that have like really taught me a lot, and have like really taught me how to not only like love myself, but like feel really secure in who I am. But I've also experienced the exact opposite too, you know, where like I've just been taught that I can't trust, and that I was made very aware from a very young age that fantasy of the perfect man is an illusion. the perfect man doesn't exist. It's just a fairy tale. You know, we're taught to fit in these roles and to play in this place, but,
Mom.
you know, just be happy. Just do this. Yes.
What? My knee is healed.
Where does your knee hurt? Did you bonk it?
No, it says it.
Oh, you scratched it?
Yeah.
Oh, I think you'll be okay. It looks like you scratched it earlier, and not just right now. It's alright. Here, do you want a blanket? Chill. There. Good. Thank you for your patience. But yeah, I've just learned from very, very early on that, like, everything I've been taught is going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And I got to figure it out all on my own. It's all my own problem. It's all my own fault. I have to be alone. I have to grow up by myself. I have to, like, be alone in my future, you know, like, I keep being shown and told that I have to stand on my own, that I have to be independent, that it, like, nobody else is gonna come save you. You gotta la la la. But I'm a female, I'm a lover, I'm a Pisces moon, I'm a hopeless romantic, tragic romantic at that. So there's this part of me that's still striving for happiness, striving to, you know, I just want you to be happy, coming from a person who can never be satisfied, or nothing is ever enough, nothing's ever good enough. So being happy with things never being good enough, being happy with the way things are, acceptance, radical acceptance. I learned that term in dialectic behavior therapy. I brought that up at the beginning of the show. And it's just accepting that sometimes shit's gotta hit the fan. And they should hit the fan, and collectively, I mean, it's going everywhere. And it's only just, like, now flying in the air. You know, I think it hasn't even landed yet. It's still being flying, like, it's still hitting the fan. I mean, it's like people are still, you know, it's still, it's a mess. Fascinating stuff. But we have to work through this. One of my favorite songs, and my favorite sayings, my favorite quotes, and again, it's something else I bring up in, my art classes all the time. It's from Modest Mouse, called The View. And the line goes, "If it takes shit to make bliss, then I feel really blissfully. And if life's not beautiful without the pain, well, then I would rather never ever even see beauty again." Right? You can't, I think the moral behind all of it, right? Like, you can't know happiness. You can't know ultimate happiness. You can't know just how happy you are capable of feeling. Because it's fleeting, right? It comes and goes. It goes, but it will come again. And when that happiness comes again, you can feel it even more deeply. You can be even happier than you've ever felt before. And each time you feel happier, you can feel even happier than that. It can grow exponentially, right? The energy doesn't go nowhere. It continues to feed off of itself. And it's perpetuating the state of bliss. When we find the state of bliss, that's why we meditate. We meditate to find the state of bliss. And when we get in that state of bliss, our goal, the aim, is to perpetuate that throughout the rest of our lives. To maintain it, to sustain it for as long as we can. And if we are outside enough of the self, or are aware enough consciously, we understand that we take that self, and that self radiates and impacts and influences and inspires others. It feeds others. It fuels others. And at the beginning of the show, I had mentioned this deep hunger, right? Like having this hunger that I just can't fill, that I just can't satiate. It's just like wanting to taste something. Like I can taste it, but it's almost there, but it's just, I want that thing that it's like I'm craving. Something to feed the soul. I'm foraging, I'm looking for it. I'm cultivating it. Planting the seeds, waiting, harvesting it, allowing it to grow. It's challenging, right? The view from Modest Mouse on the chat group, I was asked, what poem was that? Well, every song is a poem, but it's a piece of a song. I think I've mentioned it somewhere else, or I've mentioned it another time. Anyway, it's irrelevant. But right, so from the view perspective, taking perspective taking. If it takes shit to make bliss, okay, well the shit's gonna hit the fan. If we want a new system, if we want to all feel good, if we all want to be happy, if we all want to do something revolutionary and participate in a system that's phenomenal and like nothing we've ever been able to innovate before, right? We have to first let the shit hit the fan, because from that will come the state of bliss, because we won't be able to appreciate and value or understand how good it can be until it gets bad. And when something bad has happened in your life, right? This is that spectrum dynamic where things polarize. If that scale is like a 5 to 5, 5 and a negative 5, right? If you feel something to a negative 5, then when you feel that 5, like you can equally capably feel that on the positive scale. So if you feel like if it takes shit, right? If you feel like negative 100, if you had that kind of experience, if you went through that level of trauma, of impact, then you on your spectrum are capable of then reaching 100, right? On the happiness perspective. So then when you feel and you get to feel that happiness again, like you'll just feel it that much more. And the opposite is also true. You know, if you've had such an amazing experience, think of like the young overnight millionaire pop star sensation. Wow, it's just fame and fortune. Wow, this person shot to 100 can just as easily, now that it's felt that good, can just as easily on that spectrum feel negative 100 bad. Like, kind of, it takes one to know the other. It takes the dark to know the light. It takes what knowing light is to understand the dark. And this is where I think we get into that toxic positivity as well, because you don't always want to be happy, right? Like, you don't want to force or fake happiness. That's not being authentic. If you're authentically happy all the time, you're content with things the way they are, right? These are the monks up on the hill. They don't need much to survive. There's no material attachment. They can find a state of bliss and maintain that. It's possible. But this, like, idea that you have to be happy all the time. You have to, like, be a certain way. You have to exist and do things a certain way all the time. It can be incredibly toxic. The toxic positivity, because if you're only looking at the light, you're only looking at what's bright, that dark is getting equally as dark and dark and dark and dark and dark and dark, right? And you're not looking into the dark. This is where people have false belief systems, or where they falsely believe that they can be helping somebody when they're not. Or the people who don't acknowledge their shadows. People who don't take accountability or responsibility for anything bad. You know, just the people who want credit for the good. The perpetual constant victims of life. The ones who are constantly scapegoating, right? Egotistical narcissists, whatever you want to call them. People who cannot be authentic in present time, or who won't be authentic in present time. There could be, like, they can't be, like, the sociopaths out there who, like, biochemically just cannot empathize. But we've learned a lot with biochemistry and consciousness to suggest that there can be recovery, right? That people can learn how to empathize. And there's countries learning or wanting to integrate teaching empathy in schools. And why not? It's teaching the feminine side. It's encouraging the feminine nature and feminine aspects of our being. And take a sip of tea there for humanity as I roll my eyes. Oh, old soul. All these young souls. Cockney, get off my lawn. This is Mother Nature, getting crotchety, about to kick people off her lawn. If you're on Mother Nature's lawn, just step off. Let her water it. Let her repair it. Right? If not, well, this is where consciousness comes into play. This is how we beat the system. This is how we co-create something new and beautiful and awesome and stay in this place. Consciously, we stay in the state of consciousness. We work and practice to maintain a state of consciousness that is focused on co-creating blissful situations, happiness, peace, authenticity. And right now, we're healing collectively. And so, this is to judge crying as being bad. Like, authentically, if you're sad and you want to cry, cry. There's an appropriate time and place, of course. And of course, there are people who use emotions to be manipulative. I have a toddler, I want my man, like, we get into these, like, power struggles of, like, if you're, because here's how you're also not helping to, especially with people's emotional states, because if you're reinforcing somebody's negative emotional state, or if you're reinforcing inappropriate emotional responses to a situation, then you're not helping. And then that that gets really tricky, because then it's like, well, what's the appropriate emotional response for a situation? And like, this is where history comes into play. This is where scriptures come into play. This is where morals come into play. This is where, like, this spiritual hierarchy, Christ level consciousness, God spirit thing comes into play. It's a responsibility for creation, because when we're talking about consciousness and being co-creative, right, you have to know where you're going. And you can only know where you're going if you know where you've been. So you, right now, in this present time, in this present moment, carry with you the histories of your lineage through your genetics, through your social conditioning, through your histories. And in your body at this given point in time, all that energy is moving in within you, through you. You're a conduit of that timeline. And as you're stepping forward into the future, every step you take is a step into the future, right? Every next step, every next moment, anything you anticipate. Think far, far ahead into the future. Think the future generations. And consider the systems at play. And I think a lot about, like, my mom and how she would look to me and my generation and the things that are going on and the expectations, and her questioning, why aren't you doing these things? This is how. But I've learned you have to learn new ways of doing things. You have to figure out different ways of being. And so every opportunity I take, every moment, is this artistic opportunity, this co-creative opportunity, an opportunity where I'm cultivating my own sense of consciousness and questioning and wondering, am I helping? How am I helping? How can I do better? How can I be more conscious and aware? And I hope that extends out to you throughout your week. I'm so excited to check in with you next week. Next week is my birthday. I'm so excited to share my birthday with you guys. Thank you so, so much. We've got Revolution in the Morning with Mitchell coming up next. I'm super stoked. I'm nice and awake. The tater tot here is nice and awake. I'm going to go make breakfast. Thank you all very much. KelseySweet.com, Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com.